good evening, everyone. Thank you, Lynn, and thanks to everyone for joining our macrame craft session. I just want to say that I'm a self taught artist, and I believe that art and creativity it enhances and it grows as we share it with others. I think I repeat it every time because I love sharing it with everyone. So, I'm sharing this wonderful macrame craft with you all. We will be creating a wall hanging design, as you can see here, applying the basic techniques of the art. As I feel and I always say that what is macrame about? Some ties and knots. That's what macrame is all about. So we will not wait now. We'll just start our session and we will do some ties and knots and create a lovely wall art. So just repeating the supplies, we will need 10 macrame cords, a wooden stick, some tape, scissor, and a thread that would be helpful to hang your craft on the wall. So this is the one of the wall hangings that I created. Now, there are a lot of variations in it. You can change the techniques, you can change the knots that you are doing, but that depends how much you have learned. We are just going to do the basics. Now, as we were discussing, you must have already tied these knots. That is the first step. That is a lark's head knot. Turn it around. And you'll see there is one more knot at the bottom of the stick and under these two knots. We have to keep this as the front part. So this will add a little bit more texture to our art rather than putting it on the back side. So this will be the front side having 3 knots at the top, just the way to remember. Now comes the roll of our tape. Try to have a bigger base where you are doing your art and put it a little bit on the top. A little bit of your cords might be hanging down your table or the base. It's okay. Now just keep it on the table or the base and take some tape, this much of tape, and stick it on one side or one end of your wooden stick. Take one more small tape and put it on the other end of the stick. So this way your art, your craft will remain intact on the table and you'll easily be able to make the next technique, the next knots. Now try that your cords, they are not overlapped. Try to make them a little consecutive to each other rather than overlapping each other. This would be helpful for our technique. So in all, just want to explain a little bit of maths in it because we will be taking away 2 cords, then taking 4 cords. So this way, you know there are 20 cords now on your stick. Though we had doubled 10, so they became 20. Now we are going to start with the first 4 cords. Just take them in your hand, first 4 cords, and take the other ones, all the rest of the cords, a little bit to your right so that they don't interfere with your first 4 cords. I'll try to be a little slow for the initial steps. We will be repeating this knot again and again. And this knot is called square knot. It's very much similar to what we are doing, square, and there will be a square knot in your design. So just to tell you, this is the first chord and this is the 4th chord. And these 2 are the center chords. That's how I will be referring to so that you can remember which chord I am referring to. I'm keeping the other chords a little away so that I don't get confused with the first 4 chords. Now keep the middle 2 chords or the center chords down on the bass. Take your left chord, that is the first chord. We are starting from left and then going to the right. So take the first chord in your left hand and the 4th chord in your right hand. I'm trying my best to make it easy for you. And now bring the first chord, the one that I'm holding, on top of the middle 2 chords. Now you can see a kind of a 4 is formed. A 4 shape is formed, just to make you remember for the next time. Now bring the first chord on the middle two cords and under the fourth cord. I hope this much is clear. Now pick the fourth cord and bring its end in your hand. So I'm just showing it to you so that it's much clearer. And bring it under the middle two cords, the center two cords. Fourth cord under the center two cords. And bring it from the back of the first cord loop that is formed, the four shape that is formed. And bring it out from the front. So now you are having your middle two cords here and the first and the fourth cord forming a kind of knot around them. Now just pull these two cords, the first and the fourth cord. Now you see that the center cords are kind of coming up. So try to stretch them. I'm stretching both of them with the thumb on it so that it's easier for me to stretch or to pull the first and the fourth cord. And now pull them a little tight, not too tight, just a little so that they get intact. I'll zoom it to show you how it's showing up. So this is half of the square knot. We are going to complete it with one more knot from the other side in the same way, but it will be opposite to what we did now. Bring back the first and the fourth cord back straight with the center two cords. We are still on the first four ones. Now, as I had referred, now this is the first cord, the one in the beginning, and this is the fourth cord. So they have changed their places. Now, next thing is we have to do the same step, but from the other side. You can see, and I think you will be able to follow. I'll just move the camera a little. Now bring your fourth cord. We are starting with the fourth cord. Bring it on top of the middle two cords, forming a kind of a reverse four shape, and bring it under the first cord. So it is the fourth cord is on top of the center two cords and under the first cord. Now the first cord will go under the middle two cords and it will come out from the back of the loop and bring it out from the front. Now stretch the middle two cords as you did earlier. The first and the fourth cord are forming a knot around them, and we are almost going to get completed with our square knot. Now, if you want to confirm, just see how your knot looks. Does it look like a square to you? Kind of a square. Again, if you have any confusion, please let me know, but we will be repeating this step again and again, but we are going to decrease these knots as we go from one row to the other. So we will be forming a kind of a triangle as a design. Now, our first square knot is done. I'll show a close-up of it. I hope yours look the same as mine. Don't make it too tight. Now bring back all the four cords together. And let's keep four of them to the left. The first four with which you have created the square knot, keep them to the left. Now get the next section of four consecutive cords. And keep the other ones a little bit away so that you don't get confused with the four that we are going to use. Now we are going to use the same steps and create another square knot. And it will be again that I just want to give you the names that I have given. This is the first cord and this is the fourth cord. And these two are the center ones. So in case it was not clear in the first square knot, it will be clear now and you will become a pro soon. Now, I am going to take my first cord, put it on top of the center two cords, and bring it under the fourth cord. And now, I hope you must be knowing by now that we are taking the fourth cord and bringing it under the two center cords and taking the fourth cord out of the first loop, the first cord loop or the four shape that was formed. Now you can see that these two, fourth and the first cord, they are forming a knot around the center two cords. Try to stretch the center two cords and pull the first and the fourth cord to create half of the square knot. In case you want me to zoom in on any part, you can let me know. If it is clear or if the screen is good enough, you can just give a thumbs up. Now, one part of the square knot is done. Let's do the second part of this knot. We are coming to the fourth cord now and bringing it on top of the middle two or the center two cords and bringing the fourth cord under the first cord. And now, as you know, we'll bring the first cord under the middle two cords like this and take it out from the loop that the fourth cord has made. Now, just stretch the center two cords and make the second knot. Stretch the center two cords as much as you can so that they don't interfere in making our complete square knot. Now bring back the cords together and I'll just zoom it to show you how it looks, and yours should also look the same. So now the second section is done and we'll bring all the four cords to the left so that they don't interfere with our next section. So you know now there are 20 cords. So the first row will have 5 square knots. The first 2 square knots are done. And we will be reducing from 5 square knots to 4, then to 3, then to 2, and then to 1. Then we'll be forming a triangle. Now let's start with the next 4 consecutive cords. Bring them together. I'm having my first cord that is on the left hand and the fourth cord in my right hand and the middle 2 cords on the base. And I'll bring the first cord on top of the center 2 cords and under the fourth cord. And then again bring the fourth cord under the center 2 cords and bring it from the back to the top from the loop and creating a knot around the center 2 cords. Stretch the center cords and make a nice half knot that is part of our square knot. Now bring back the cords again back and again you must be knowing by now we will be doing the same steps from the other side. That is, the fourth cord will come on top of the center 2 cords and under the first cord, and the first cord will come under the center 2 cords and come out of the loop on the right. Now we'll stretch them, we'll pull them and stretch the middle 2 cords. Try that they don't overlap each other. Mine are overlapping, so I'm just bringing them nicely down. And then just pull them as we did for the previous knots and create a complete square knot. Now we are just bringing this section towards the left so that it is not interfering with the next 4 chords that we are going to take. These should be subsequent, or they should go from one to the other, and the other chords shouldn't overlap on them. So try to make them consecutive and straighten them as much as you can. Now again, the same step. The first chord on top of the middle two chords, under the fourth chord, and the fourth chord under the middle two chords, and bringing it out from the back to the front, from the loop. For me, it has become kind of a rhyme. I had practiced it yesterday, and I was like up and down and up. So it goes like alternatively. Once you go up and then you go down. Now I'm again towards the right side. I'm bringing my fourth chord on top of the middle two chords and under the first chord, and bringing the first chord under the center two chords out from the loop. And then just pulling it and creating the square knot. So this was the fourth square knot for the first row. Now we are going to be done with the first row with just one more square knot. Now you must be left with only 4 chords to the right. So that is just a way to check that you are doing it right. Now again the same process. First chord over the middle two under the fourth chord, and the fourth chord under the middle two, and bringing it out of the loop from the back to the front. And just making the first knot in the square knot. Now I'm bringing them back and bringing the fourth chord on top of the center two and under the first chord, and bringing the first chord under the center two chords and taking it out of the loop. Just stretching the center two once and creating the full square knot. So we are done with the first row. I hope you all are also done with it. I know it's a little bit tiring job, but once you are able to create that wall hanging and decorate it in your room, it will look like worth doing all this effort. So now, if you are done with the first row with 5 square knots, just bring back all the chords down and straighten them so that they don't overlap each other.
How's everyone doing? Good? Thumb up? We got a thumbs up. Excellent. Okay.
Okay, so now let's straighten up all these. It gets a little bit confusing, but there is a way. Even if you made a wrong knot, you can just open it. These are not that tight, and very easily you can open these. These are little thick cords, so it's easier to open them. Now I think mine have straightened up quite good. Now please follow this step nicely because it will be easier for you to create the next 4 knots. So the first row has 5 knots, as I said. Now the next row will have 4 knots. But how will that happen? This will happen by getting the first 2 chords on your left, the very first 2 chords, 2 consecutive chords on your left. Just separate them from the rest and bring them to your left. We are not going to use them. Same way, from your extreme right, take 2 consecutive chords, the last 2 consecutive chords, and bring them towards the right and separate them from the rest. So the 4 chords are separated. Now we just have 16 chords out of the 20. So if you just match up, you'll get 4 square knots, taking 4 chords each time. following the same square knot pattern. So first two cords are separated and the last two cords are separated. Now we are going to, we'll think that these are the only cords that we have. So take 4 cords, consecutive cords in your hand and take them as the bunch that we will need for creating another square knot, the first square knot for the second row. Now I'm going to, the rest of these cords, which we will be using, just keep them a little bit separate towards the right so that they don't interfere with the first 4 cords that we are going to use. Just remember the first 2 cords are not now part of it. Just the way to remember. So these 4, I will still refer the first one as the left one as the first one, and the right chord as the fourth one, and the middle 2 chords as the center ones. Following the same steps, we are going to create the square knot for this first square knot for the second row. So the first chord on top of the middle 2 chords, and the fourth chord on top of the first chord, or another way, the first chord under the fourth chord. So you will have first chord on top of the 2 chords, middle 2 chords, and under the fourth chord. Now take the fourth chord or the string, bring it under the center 2 chords, and take it out from the back of the loop on the left. And as the way we did earlier, just stretch the middle 2 chords and make a nice knot, the first knot that is part of the square knot, around the middle 2 chords, and tighten it a little. Now, just to confirm that you all are doing right, I'll just zoom it. There might be a little hole in between on the top, the first row that you have. So this is part of the pattern. So I hope you all have got that. So it's a connection between the first 2 square knots that you have created. Now again, this was only half of the square knot. So I'm bringing back 4 of the chords that you used for half of it. Now we are going to follow the same directions from the right side. Take the fourth chord first, bring it on top of the middle 2 chords. I'll just unzoom it. Bring it on top of the middle 2 chords and under the first chord. Now bring the first chord under the center 2 chords and take it out of the loop on the right. Now stretch the center 2 chords and make a nice knot, not too tight but not too loose. Just use your judgment that it should look like a square, like this. So the first square knot of the second row is done. We will be doing 3 more square knots for the second row. So that will be total of 4 square knots. Just bring them towards your left so they get separated. You can even join them with the first 2 chords you already have. It's okay, it won't be confusing. Now we are going to get to the next 4 consecutive chords. Just be clear that these should be consecutive. Don't bring any other chord overlapping it. Try to straighten them so that you get to know which are the 4 consecutive chords. Bring the next 4 consecutive chords in your hand. Keep the middle 2 down on the bass. So I have brought the first chord on top of the center 2 chords and under the fourth chord, and bringing the fourth chord under the middle 2 or the center 2 chords, and bring it out from the back to the front from the left loop, creating half of the square knot around the center 2 chords. Now bring them back again together. Don't confuse them with the rest of the chords. Try to separate them. Again, you will be having a little kind of a hole or a pattern on top of the first row. Now again, coming back to the fourth cord, bringing it on top of the middle two cords, bringing it under the first cord, and then bringing the first cord under the middle two cords, and bringing it from the back to the front of the loop, creating the second half knot for the complete square knot. Just check that all of these knots look like or similar to a square shape. That will just confirm that you are doing the square knot in the right way. Now I'm done with the second knot of the second row. We are still going to do 2 more knots, square knots for the second row. Now I'm bringing the ones that I've already done to the left and getting the next bunch of 4 consecutive cords. And then again, the same process. Bringing the first cord and the fourth cord the way I did earlier. Bringing the first cord on top of the center 2 cords under the fourth cord, and bringing the fourth cord under the center 2 cords and bringing it out of the loop. Now stretch the center 2 cords. Don't let them overlap and create half of the square knot. Now keep the other cords separate and bring the fourth cord on top of the center 2 cords. Bring the fourth cord under the first cord, and now bring the first cord under the center 2 cords and take it out from the right loop. Now pull it, stretch the center ones, and create the third square knot. So this is the third square knot for the second row, and bring it to the left so that it gets separated from the next 4. So this is the last 4 cords that we will use to create the square knot for the second row. So this will be the 4th square knot. Considering the last 2 cords are already separated and they are not part of it. Now again, this is the first cord and this is the 4th cord. Now I think you all have become expert. You don't even need to see me. That's what I'm saying. Everybody is busy. So now I'm again taking the first cord on top of the center 2 cords and bringing it under the 4th cord, bringing the 4th cord under the center 2 cords and bringing it out of the loop. Stretching the center ones, creating half of the knot, bringing them together again, taking the 4th cord on top of the center 2 cords and under the first cord, bringing the first cord under the center 2 cords and take it out of the loop. Now creating a knot around them. So the square knot, the 4th square knot is also done. I hope you are also done with it. If you want me to wait, I can, because we will be moving to the 3rd row. Okay, now bring all these cords together. Together and just see that they don't overlap each other. Now you can see your 5 square knots on the first row, 4 square knots in the second row. Now we are coming to 3 square knots in the 3rd row. So for that, we now again need to separate a few cords which we will not use. So for the second row, you just separated 2 cords in the beginning and 2 chords at the end. Now we will be separating 4 chords in the beginning and 4 consecutive chords at the end. So I'll just show you. Starting from the left, I'm going to take first, second, third, and see that they are all consecutive, that they are not overlapped. Take 4 chords on the left and take them to your left, separate them from the rest of the batch. Take the 4 consecutive chords from the right end and separate them and bring them to the right, separate them from the rest of the bunch. So 4 chords and 4 chords, that means 8 chords, they are separated. So out of 20, only 12 are left. So if 12 are left, if we do the maths, we are able to do 3 square knots with it, with 4 threads each. So again, we'll follow the same process. We'll take the first 4 consecutive chords, not taking into consideration the one that you have separated, and bring the other ones a little bit far from the first 4 ones on the left so that they don't interfere with our square knot. Now again, referring to this chord that I'm holding on my left hand, that is the first chord, and this one that I'm holding in the right hand is the 4th chord, and the middle 2 as the center ones. So again, follow the same steps. First chord on top of the center 2 chords and under the 4th chord. 4th chord under the center 2 chords and bringing it out of the loop from the left. Stretching the middle 2 and a nice half square knot. Now bringing them together, the 4 of them together, and then bringing the 4th chord on top of the center 2 chords under the first chord, and the first chord under the center 2 chords, and bringing it out of the loop. Now stretch the center ones and pull the first and the 4th and create one more square knot. So this is the first square knot of the 3rd row. I hope this much is clear. And we will bring all these 4 towards the left so that they are separated from the rest. Now take the next 4 consecutive chords and the rest, just separate them for now. So your first square knot is done. Now we are coming to the second square knot. This will have only 3 square knots. So this is the second one. Bring the first chord on top of the center 2 chords and under the 4th chord, and the 4th chord under the center 2 chords, and take it out of the loop. So now I have done the half of the square knot, and I'm coming to the next part, that is bring the 4th chord on top of the center chords and under the first chord, bring the first chord under the center 2 chords and bring it out of the loop. And then just create your good, sweet square knot. Now, just bringing all of them together and bringing them to the left as we did for the earlier ones so that we don't get confused with the rest. Now we have the last 4 chords to create the 3rd and the last square knot for the 3rd row. And again, this is the first chord, this is the 4th chord. Bring the first one on top of the center ones, bring the 4th chord on top of the first one, and bring it under the center 2 ones and bring it out of the loop. Now again, bring them together, take the 4th chord and bring it on top of the Center 2 cords under the first cord. Bring the first cord under the center 2 cords and take it out of the right loop. And we are done with the third square knot of the third row. So you must be seeing that it is now decreasing and forming a kind of a triangle. Now bring back all the cords. So next thing is, again, now since we had made 5 square knots in the first row, 4 square knots in the second row, 3 square knots in the third row, now we just need to make 2 square knots in the fourth row and then just 1 square knot. So for that, we need to separate a lot number of cords. So first take from the left consecutively, take the first cord, second cord, third cord, fourth cord, fifth cord, and the sixth cord. So first 6 consecutive cords and bring them to the left, just separate them. Same way on the right hand side and take the last 6 consecutive cords, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and bring them to the right. So they all are separated, 6 from the left and 6 from the right. Now what are you left with? Just count. You'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You'll have 8 cords now with which we have to work. So now you must have understood by now, we will take a group of 4 cords and then a group of 4 cords to make 2 square knots for our fourth row. Now I think this is the simplest part because you already know the square knot. So what we are going to do is, I'm just referring them again. The first cord is in my left hand and the fourth cord is in my right hand and the center 2 on the base. I'm separating the rest of the 4 a little bit, putting them a little far so that they don't interfere. I'm just putting the first cord on top of the center 2 cords under the fourth cord and bringing the fourth cord under the center 2 cords and take it out of the left loop. So half of it is done. Now bring the fourth cord on top of the center 2 cords and under the first cord. Bring the first cord under the center 2 cords and take it out of the loop. Now you all must be thinking, why am I repeating this again and again? You all must be knowing it by now. But I don't want to leave that part, just want to continue so that you are clear by the end. So I am done with the first square knot of the fourth row. And I'm separating them from the rest of the cords. Now I have a set of 4 cords again. The rest that were on the right, they are separated. They are not of any use right now. Now taking the left cord, the first cord, and taking the right cord, that is the fourth cord, and bringing the first cord on top of the center 2 cords under the fourth cord. So now I have done half of the square knot. Now again, I'm putting the fourth cord on top of the center 2 cords under the first cord, bringing the first cord under the center 2 cords and taking it out of the loop. And here we get another square knot. That was the only knot that was required for the fourth row. So 5, 4, 3, and 2. So now we are only left with 1 square knot that will complete our triangular macrame design. Now, if you want, you don't need to bring them all of them together now. What you can do is bring just the middle 4 that you just made a knot with previously. Bring them together to the last 4 that you made a knot at the end. So bring the 8 of them together. Now take the first two consecutive ones and separate them. Bring them to the ones that were already separated and take the last 2 consecutive ones and put them to the right, so that now we are left with only 4 cords with which we will just create one square knot. So that, I think, for you would be the easiest part. Now again, that's the simple step. Take the first cord, put it on top of the middle 2 and under the 4th cord. Bring the 4th cord under the center 2 cords and take it out of the loop. Now bring them together. Bring the 4th cord on top of the center 2 cords under the first cord and bring the first cord under the center 2 cords and take it out of the loop. Now just pull them, stretch the center ones, and the last square knot is done. Now I'm just bringing back all these cords together